Hey Tribe, today we're going to give you 3 core exercises that you will see in our classes, and for those at home, 3 core exercises that you should be doing. The first one we're going to start off with is called the unicycle. We're going to show these from the easiest to the most difficult progression, and first thing we're going to start off with is just laying down on the ground. If you've done a Turkish get-up before, the first 2 steps of that Turkish get-up are a roll and a post of the hips. So we're getting almost into a side plank. So to set ourselves up, we're going to have one arm that's going to be about 45 degrees, and the opposite knee is going to be up. The arm that is down, that is the direction you're going to be rolling towards. The leg that is up, that's the leg or the foot that you're going to be pushing off. And when we're pushing off, we don't want to be just pushing off on the heel. We want to make sure that we plant that toe down into the ground as well too. So the first step of this is going to be simply a roll. So we're going to roll this shoulder up and over. She's going to come up onto the elbow, and then she's going to drive through this leg and lift the hips up. Good. Then we're going to come back down, and then we're going to roll back down. Pretty simple. Next, what we're going to try and do is lift this leg, and we're going to hold the leg in the air while we do that. So we're going to elevate that. Same thing happens. We're rolling over to the side of the body, driving those hips up, coming back down. And if you notice, she's doing it very slow and controlled. We don't want to race through this, then we're going to race through the difficult part. We're not going to use those abs and build them the way that we want. Third step, what we can do is take that knee and bend it, holding that leg in that position. And when we come up, we're going to add a little bit more of a roll to tuck ourselves underneath. So she once again is going to come up at an angle, up onto that elbow, push through the entire forearm, pick the hip up, and we're just doing a slight rotation, coming back down and laying all the way down. For us to do the full unicycle that you'll see in class, or what we call them, we want the elbow to the knee. And when she does that, she wants to pick the head up and tuck the chin. So we're almost like into a hollow body position slightly. We're holding this connection, and this is what you want to focus on. It's going to be tough initially, but we're going to try and roll that body up onto that elbow. We're going to drive the hips up, and we're going to try and rotate that body underneath, come back out. Keep the connection here as we sit our butt back down on the ground. Keep the connection as we lean back. Good, and we're going to do one more. Nice and slow, focusing on that connection between the knee and the elbow. We're going to come up, pick the hip up, create that roll, roll back, and come back down. And that is our unicycle. Pretty tough and relaxed, Nadine. Really good job on that. Pretty tough. You're going to feel a lot into the outside or the external and internal obliques. And the hardest part is keeping that body in that crunched position while we create movement of the body. So once again, focus a lot on that. A couple faults that we see is that if she's laying down, we're going to have the arm out to the side. And what people do is they just do a sit-up. So she just kind of leans up. We don't want that. We want to help us roll in that direction. In general, rolling over is one of the first things we ever learn as a child, and we do it every single day when we roll in and out of bed, but our body will compensate and not use the core muscles that we need, and we'll resort to the shoulders or the legs to try and get us into that movement. So this is really good to help build a lot of those small and dynamic muscles within that core. But that is the unicycle. The next one we're going to go into is a side oblique raise with the TFL raise as well too. So we're going to go on the side here. We're going to be focusing a lot on these lower obliques on her body. Now, a lot of us know how to do a side plank, but when we get into a side plank, we end up just raising the hips up, and we're kind of just flat, and we're just like holding there. We feel a lot of tension in the legs. We want to make sure that we're using those obliques. So a good way to do this is if we bring our hand across the chest, or across the belly. So that means if the hand is across the belly, she should have her hands focused on the obliques. If you're trying to figure out where that is, you have a hip bone that kind of sticks out. Find that and go about a 45-degree angle up about an inch or 2 and just rest your hand there. Almost like the palm is covering your belly button is a good way to look at it. I like to always start in this position. It's going to be a lot easier to do to make sure we get those obliques in the lower part of the body to lift the body up and not just the hip. I like to make sure that we have those knees pretty much perpendicular to the body, and we're in line from pretty much the shoulder to the glute and we are on that forearm. We can do it on the hand, but with everything, I like you guys to try it on the forearm and drive through the forearm, not just the elbow. First thing we're going to do for that side oblique raise is using the lower abs, which are going to be underneath her left hand, we are going to raise the hips up. And as she raises the hips up, you're going to see her head dip down as well too. So the hips are almost higher than the head. You can really feel it. I know she's feeling that right now. And then what we're going to do is we can either come back down, if that's all we have, that's really tough, or if we want to kick this up a little bit, we're going to go into that side oblique raise, and then we're going to go into a clamshell, keeping the feet together and then bringing it back down. Now, once again, do these slow. The slower, the better. I can't stress that enough. The slower, the better. If you're just burning through these, you're losing a lot. I'd rather have 2 perfect reps than 10 ugly reps. So it's all about the quality of the movement in that controlled fashion to help build the mind-muscle connection. It has to be done in a slow process. If we feel good with this position, we're going to straighten those legs out. We're always looking for a straight line from ear, shoulder, hip, knee to the foot. We kind of want to be on the side of the foot the best we can. If we have to, we can stagger these feet, but I prefer you guys to try and stack those. Same thing happens with that hand. It's across that belly button, so we're feeling those obliques. We're going to raise that hip up, dropping the head down. We should feel those obliques engaged, and then come back down to the ground. If you guys can hold it at the top for a couple seconds, perfect. Next, we're going to go into that side raise to TFL raise. So we're going to go back up into that oblique raise or side raise, and then we're going to try and pick this leg up. Keeping it nice and flat, come back down, and then lower those hips. So side raise to TFL raise. And when we're doing this TFL raise, if this foot is pointed up and in front of the body, we're going to be firing a lot of this vastus medialis, or excuse me, vastus lateralis right here, and a lot more of the quads. If this leg is toe down and slightly behind the hip, so if she was rolled slightly forward and raising it up, we should feel this mainly on the TFL, which is pretty much a triangle right here into that lower back into the glute max, a little bit of glute medius that we should be feeling. So when you're doing the TFL raise, make sure that you're feeling it back here and we're not feeling it back here. So show one that is quad dominant, so we're using more of the quads to be raising up in front with the toe up. She probably feels that more in the quad. And then if she brings the leg back to like almost like a 45 behind you and coming back down, you're going to feel a little bit more of the TFL. Now Nadine does a really good job of keeping this controlled and slowed, but I promise you, if you try it, it is tough. It is definitely one that's going to make your body shake that looks a lot easier than it is. Finally, we have one more step to that. Though this is a slightly different movement, it could be a progression to the movement that we just did, and this is called a Copenhagen Plank. With a Copenhagen Plank, we're going to keep the top foot on here, and what we want to look for is that the side of the foot is actually impacting on the ground. A lot of times we're twisting that foot down to try and create some sort of tension, which is going to add, or it's just going to kick in different muscles. We should be feeling this all coming up on the inside of the leg. So we want that foot nice and flat. The other thing is a lot of times people are going to be having that foot up, and we're going to be driving into the heel. Good if it's the way to start, and that's what we can do, but we are looking for that pressure of hitting right here on the side of that metatarsal pad. We want to be driving that down into the ground as well, and you'll definitely feel it going up on the inside of the thighs. So we want to stay in a straight line the best that we can, and all we're going to do is just raise the hips up in that oblique, or that side oblique raise. We're going to hold that the best we can, and that could be good for some. If we want to do a little bit more, we pick that leg up, and now we could pick that bottom leg up and down. We could bring that leg slightly behind us, the one that's lower, and we'll be hitting more of that TFL and glute. We could bring it in front, hit a little bit more of that quad, and relax, and come back down. Very good job. So that's the Copenhagen Plank, a lot tougher to do, even just getting up and holding into that position. But I would give these a try. First ones we got are the unicycles. So we're going to try and keep that knee to the elbow as we move through that movement. That second one we have is the side raise, the TFL raise. Remember, we want to keep that leg slightly behind midline with the toe pointed down. raising the heel up at about 45 degrees to the rear. You can modify that by being in the knees or by the knees bent and working into a clamshell. And finally, we also have those Copenhagen planks where we're going to be pushing down not only on the heel but on the side of the toe, keeping that body nice and straight, and then raising and lower the lower leg. Try those out. Let us know what you think, as always, in the comments. If you're in our classes, you're going to see these in our classes. You're already seeing the unicycles that we're trying to introduce as well. And this is a good opportunity. We're going to be demoing a lot of the movements that you see in our revives, and then they're going to carry on into our rebuilds. So some of the stuff that you will see, or the introduction to those movements, are going to be in the revives, and sooner or later we're going to build a long-term program for them into they're in our revives and build them for either way. They're going to be in the start of class, and then you might see them at the end of class later down the road. So hopefully these videos will help. And if you like our videos, like and subscribe. And as always, reach out to us if you need any help. Thank you.